When you hear the word progress, what immediately springs to mind? For many people, progress means technological and scientific innovation, and to a large degree, this is true. Science and technology have driven profound social and economic changes. The mechanization of agriculture shifted millions of people away from the countryside into urban employment. The steam engine and electricity unleashed unimaginable productive forces. Automation created new types of jobs and the need for new skills in manufacturing, but also pushed workers into a growing service sector where new employment opportunities were being created. Technology means products can be mass-produced at a lower cost, allowing the average person access to a range of goods and services previously only available to wealthy elites. But progress, whether it be technological or societal, is not a linear process.
There's a very clear link, obviously, between societal improvement, living standards, and technology. Actually, the only way that you can grow an economy, apart from conquest, is through technology innovation. Technology innovation is what makes products cheaper, makes them more affordable, allows you to diffuse them to a wider section of the population, and living standards are raised as a consequence. The problem you have is with technology change, you tend to get, long periods of steady change, and the workers can keep up with the skills they need to work in those industries. And then you get big discontinuities where you get new technologies like digital technology coming in that require new skills, new thinking, new approaches for workers and for managers. And then you find people left out of the economy because they can't learn or adapt quickly enough. And this happened in the Industrial Revolution, for example. So, when steam engines came in, when you moved away from very simple technologies which were around weaving and big large wooden machines, then you get steam power and then electricity. You'd find, around that period that people could become unemployed for 20 years. And if they did find work, they would not find work at the same level. So huge drops in living standards. That's where you get the tension between technology change and workers. It's at the point of discontinuity. And that's what we're dealing with right now with digital technology.
Each industrial revolution was marked by long periods of upheaval and change that led to huge leaps in productivity, economic growth and wealth creation, but also unemployment and poverty, leading to reform movements that paved the way for the worker and human rights that protect us today. Political and economic ideologies emerged that taught us that it is impossible to control and plan complex social systems like economies and the technological innovations that drive them, but also that embracing progress as prosperity and a focus on economic growth, productivity and profit does not neatly translate into economic resilience and societal and environmental well-being. There is much we have learned, but we are now amid a fourth industrial revolution and find ourselves asking the same questions as before.
So the big questions around Industry 4.0 are pretty straightforward. What does the future of work actually look like? Are we going to have dark factories run only by robots with no people there at all? Is that a possibility? If that's true, what does our economy look like? Obviously to keep an economy going, you need consumers, so they need a wage. There's no point producing stuff in factories if people can't buy it. But having said that, the idea of robots making everything is probably unrealistic for two reasons. You can't get competitive advantage out of that because your competitors share the same technology. So there's still going to be a place for workers in those factories, observing, understanding how to bring about innovation, bring about change, get costs down. So that's competitive advantage, for example. And also human beings, they don't sit still. We are sort of a homo prospectus, we've been called. We're always looking to the future, we're always looking to the next thing. So if you've got a population of people who in theory could be sitting at home getting universal basic income while the robots make everything for them, it's unlikely that they'll stay at home. They'll find things to do, they'll find services to sell, they'll create products that other people want, and new economies will almost, in my view, certainly emerge out of that.
But Industry 4.0 is not just about robots replacing human workers. It is the accumulation of a wide variety of technologies, such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and cyber-physical systems, that, together with advances in automation, will radically change industry and manufacturing.
Industry 4.0 is a broad-ranging concept involving actually quite a lot of technologies, and in many ways has been brewing for a few decades. At the heart of it probably is the lowering cost of processors and memory. That's enabled technologies to be built en masse that can be placed into machines in order to monitor them. So the computing revolution, obviously this Industry 4.0 comes out of that, had two main strands. There was one strand that was interested in augmenting human work and human activity, and we get laptops and PCs and mobile phones and all of that sort of thing from that strand. The other strand was the idea that we could replace humans altogether, and this goes all the way back to the 50s. So this was about building robots that could mimic humans and building intelligent machines that could also mimic human intelligence. These strands are coming together now. So it's now possible to fill all of your factory machines with sensors, collect data, have that data in a different place. So it's allowing physical automation with digital control.
The convergence of automation and digital technologies promises large increases in efficiency, quality, cost savings, and the mass customization of products. And digital twin technologies will enable design, testing, and analysis in a virtual world prior to real-world installation or production. The new technologies have almost endless possibilities, but what we need to understand is how these technologies can be integrated effectively with existing skills, how the nature of work will change, and what workers and businesses need to do to best prepare themselves for the transition. This is what the consortium from the European-funded project Upskill has set out to achieve.
Most of the projects I've worked on in the past, around digital technology and Industry 4.0 have been about how can we get more technology, how can we diffuse technology faster, how can we persuade firms to uptake digital technology. This project isn't really about that, although it is, at some level. It's also about broader European issues, not just about industrial competitiveness in particular countries. It really is about quality of life and how the economy is going to look in the future. So it's very forward-looking. It's an attempt to really explore the extent to which these technologies are going to change work and have negative and positive consequences for work and for skills. So this project is about thinking about what skills we need for the future and what we can do to protect those, in a situation where you still need to be economically competitive. So we have to balance those two things.
To truly understand changes to organizational structures, the nature of work and job roles, upskill researchers will immerse themselves into work environments where there is a need or desire to integrate these new technologies.
The basis of the project in terms of research is to do very deep ethnographic case studies. We're going to have researchers on site, potentially actually doing jobs with the firms. So they'll be there a couple of days a week, observing how work is done, understanding how skills are developed over time, understanding the strategies of the firm in terms of why they adopted this technology, understanding how things have worked out for them, and also helping some of these firms answer questions that they have. We're also going to be putting some technologies into firms. We're going to look at automation technology for them, 3D printing, and then studying the innovation process and what effects that has on the firms. But we're also very interested in this context of Industry 5.0, how managers have to operate. Because if you're talking about human beings working with machines and robots, inter-augmentation, using AI, for example, using robots working with them, how do you manage in that space? How do you change your approach to workers? How do you change your approach to how you identify and reward skills and knowledge? Because it's clear to us that there's a huge amount of technology out there waiting to be exploited in innovative, new and different ways. And this is where competitive advantage comes from. And this is what we want to help firms do, while at the same time keeping an eye on the broader questions of, well, what's this going to do to employment? And what's this going to do to quality of life? Are these the sort of jobs we want to create? Are these the sort of jobs and skills that we want to lose into sustainable in the long run? How does this affect not just the bottom line of the company involved, but also the bottom line for the environment, if you like, the triple bottom line, as it's been called.
The transition from Industry 4.0 to 5.0, to a large extent, will involve the same technologies, but they will be implemented differently, with a broader strategic focus of not just an immediate benefit to industry, but also longer-term prospects and the sustainable practices and resiliency that will be needed to achieve them. We'll incorporate a human-centric approach that integrates human skills and capabilities with the emerging technologies, whilst maintaining a view towards overall societal and environmental well-being. The European Commission's Horizon programme and the Health and Digital Executive Agency, as part of the Industry 5.0 approach, are funding projects and embarking on a number of initiatives, such as the Skills Agenda, Digital Education Action Plan, the Green Deal, and the European Industrial Strategy, to ensure that Europe has sustainable and resilient industries that are prepared for the transition to the digital and green economy. The Upskill project is part of this transition.
The main pillars of Industry 5.0 are about human centricity, sustainability, resilient firms, future of work, quality of life, and those sort of values that are not necessarily about, efficiency or profitability, just as the only objective. So as an attempt to look more broadly at what we should be thinking about for good society, good work, sustainability, and of course environmental sustainability as well. It's the same technology that we're talking about, Industry 4.0, but it's a recognition that if we keep on steaming ahead with making things more efficient, getting more robots into factories, making people unemployed, changing the work that people do, not necessarily for the best, draw on more resources from the environment, and have broader effects on societies and communities as a consequence of just letting things progress as they are, then that's going to create societal problems. It's going to create environmental problems. It's going to create quality of life problems. It's going to create problems for resilience of firms. So this is, in a sense, a pause for thought, and to look again at Industry 4.0 and say, let's extract from it what really works from us, but let's leave out what is damaging. Let's think about how we can exploit this, not just for the bottom line of each company in terms of profit, but also the environmental bottom line, the social bottom lines. We need to create social value as well as, economic value. And we've got to the point now, I think, where we can do that. We have a huge amount of goods and services. It's not clear how much more of that we really need. We need to return our attention to the environment and climate change, protecting ourselves from that. And we need to think more about the quality of life that we actually want. Industry 5.0 encapsulates all of that. Because in a sense, if we don't think about that, make those decisions, then Industry 4.0 starts to become a threat to our present existence rather than a advantage or benefit to it.
So, what is progress? Is maximum comfort and mobility progress? Is it progress if a machine replaces a skilled worker, an artist, or a narrator? Perhaps, but what we have learned is that we cannot restrain and control, nor heedlessly liberate technological innovation without consequences. We must nurture innovation, but also understand it, prepare and upskill ourselves so we have the knowledge to use it wisely for the benefit of all aspects of society. And we need to consistently ask ourselves what progress means. This, in and of itself, is progress.